to Coffee for Closers. Today's episode is an unfiltered episode. We're talking all about live events, getting you folks out there in the field, back in front of a live audience, doing workshops like we used to prior to this virus. I'm joined with Mr. Jeff Tallow, the head of program maintenance. You're maintaining all of our programs in the seminar side of things. And again, live events in a COVID world. How does it look? We're going to talk all that and more. And for everyone that stays on to the end, we've got a pretty terrific offer for anybody that wants to get into one of these events. So let's lay some foundation. We've been doing some live events here, Jeff. Well, first off, let me thank you for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me.
And obviously, we've been doing a whole lot of live events. You've been at the helm of coordinating all of those as program coordinator. Mm-hmm. How have things been going?
They're picking up, surprisingly. But,
really?
Yeah.
So we've gone through some of the results over the last couple of weeks, and people are surprised and happy. The one thing that I found to be really, really interesting about this COVID world that everybody out there watching should take note of is your need to be able to adapt to the situation, because it's not going to be like the seminar you've been doing for years. Right. It's not going to be, in a restaurant, in the back room, some private area where you can do, a congregation of people. It's not necessarily that way. I've seen guys doing events in parking lots. I've seen people doing events at big, giant rooms, like massive rooms that are only have like 20, 30.
Scattered.
Yeah, they're scattered. Yeah. And what it creates is this new, unique opportunity for us to get creative in how we present things. So if you decide to do a live event, you might tweak things a little bit. And our team, and Jeff, you've been at the helm of helping coach guys through this, what's working, what's not working, what to do if you're outside. I know we had a gentleman that did an event in a parking lot just the other day of a restaurant, fully catered. This guy had tables set up like you normally would have inside, and the food was brought out there. But he was doing an event in the parking lot with, he had paper that he was just drawing on.
Thinking outside the box right there.
You got to think outside the box. It's just a different world that we're living in. So everything that we're going to talk about today, as far as getting you folks back in front of a live audience, just know that it's somewhat different. But when you hear the results that are happening out there, you're going to throw that caution to the wind. You're going to say, I got to be doing one of these things. If you're ready. Not everybody's ready to get back in front of an audience. They're worried about the virus and they don't want to get back. For those that need to get back and want to get back and need that belly-to-belly interaction, there's no better way than doing these live events.
Right.
And even more importantly, doing Learning Lab live events, so digital workshops, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, just real quick, give us some results. What are we kind of expecting when you do one of these workshops?
Right now, what we're seeing so far is about 30 registrations.
30 registrations on average?
Yes.
Okay, so we can assume maybe 15 buying units?
Yes.
And some of that has to do with the caps of the room.
A lot of places, they have like 50% capacity.
Right.
To maintain that social distancing.
Unless you're in a parking lot.
Unless you're in a parking lot. You can scatter them out a little further. But other places, depends on the state, they have a cap of 10 people or 15 people.
Sure.
Something like that. So it just depends, Some have no indoor meetings at all.
Sure. What's interesting, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of the results as far as each workshop's results and what you can expect when you do one of these. But one of the interesting thing has been the conversion rates.
Right.
If you've ever done digital workshops before, digital workshops meaning it's promoted on social media, promoted by or on Facebook. If you've ever done them, you're expecting somewhere around a 50 to 60% attendance rate. Right. Which is kind of, down from the mail world. If you're used to doing a mailer, you're expecting 80 to 90% attendance.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The thing with digital, though, is you're going to have more than double the registrations.
Right.
Yes. But now in this COVID world, we're in a different situation. You do a digital workshop. You've got a capped number in the room. It almost lends itself to doing mail. Right? I was almost thinking that. It's like, okay, well, shoot. We already know that we're going to run a 50% attendance.
Right.
It could be bad if we can only put 30 people on the registration ticket.
True.
Right? But here's what's happening. You've got a very serious buyer that wants to be, that needs this information. and is eager to get out of the house. People are stir crazy right now. If you've been trapped in your home for the last 3 months, and to be honest, the regulations that have been in place have started to temper some of the flares out there. Right. Not all of them. There's certainly some spikes in different areas of the country right now. But in the general gist of things, the masks and the hand sanitizers and the 6 feet of distance, it was working, and people are starting to feel comfortable with those rules and regulations. Right. They're willing to go out of their house.
Right. If they know they're going to be safe, or at least taken care of, they're willing to take that
risk
chance. Yeah.
And so what happens now is this serious buyer is now coming to your event. So if they're clicking to register during a pandemic, during a national pandemic, to come to your workshop, the likelihood is that they're a serious person. They're going to show up, and that's been showing in the results. When we're doing, I think we're running like an 80% attendance.
Yeah, it's like right on 80%.
80% attendance. Yeah. That's crazy. Okay, so let's talk about it. What is the Learning Lab? We got to talk about that for just a second. For anybody out there, if you want more details on what the Learning Lab is, there's plenty of other webinars and shows that we've done that talk about the Learning Lab's foundations and its concepts. But let me lay some groundwork for everybody, okay? The Learning Lab is an educational resource for anybody and everybody to learn about retirement planning concepts. And it's built to be a monstrosity on social media. It's built on the foundation and the principle that if we all band together under one umbrella, we can truly make a mark in social media. Because you got to think here. If you're a sole entity, if you're Jeff Tallarino Financial Services, if you're Jeff Tallarino Financial Services and you're going to now create some presence online, it's not just as simple as buying ads. Right. It's also having credibility. It's what's called a relevance score. You have to have relevance in what you're talking about. And if people aren't liking, sharing, following, clicking, all of those things in relation to you, you're not going to get pushed in the algorithm that Facebook has out there. You're not going to get pushed to the top of the pile. You're not going to get noted. It would cost you a lot more money than what it costs us all banding together under the Learning Lab. So when we do our events pre-COVID, we were doing 100 to 150 events per month, depending on the area. And all of that recognition, all of that clout that's built up over those campaigns creates this click happy environment, and it's the Facebook algorithm is loving it, and it's constantly pushing us up to the top of our demographic. So when we do our ads, it costs us way less because Facebook sees that our ads are keeping people on Facebook. Right. Our content that we're pumping out constantly. You'd have to pump out all kinds of content on top of all the events you're doing.
And compete with.
So so the Learning Lab offers articles, shows, webinars, podcasts, all of these different pieces of content.
Short little videos, all of these little pieces of content on top of doing 150 different events out there. Now, Megastar and our team here internally does the creation of all of those content pieces so that the brand is recognizable, because what you're trying to establish online more than anything else is trust. Trust with the consumer. You have to build a brand. You look at Raymond James and Edward Jones and all of these different big box brands out there in the financial world. They're not doing as bad in the COVID world, in the new virtual world. Why? Because they're clearly not an internet scam when you're talking with somebody like that. You folks out there, as a mom and pop shop out there, if you haven't done branding enough in your area and you start to do virtual appointments and you don't have a big backing brand behind you, you look like an internet scam to these folks. That's probably why your virtual appointments aren't going to end up in a close. People will entertain you, they'll be nice to you, but at the end of the day, when it's time to pull that trigger, they're going to be cautious. They're going to be cautious, right? And so the Learning Lab offers an opportunity for anybody at all that wants to get plugged in, whether you're with Megastar and you just now are going to start entertaining the Learning Lab, or if you're a new advisor out there taking a look at Megastar for the first time ever. Learning Lab, just so you know, is our most popular program. It has been for a number of years now. Yeah, it's really taken off.
It really has. And so if you're looking to get into a seminar program right now and you're looking to promote it digitally, which, to be honest, mail is dead. It was dying before, and now it's dead, right? But so if you're looking to do a workshop, digital is going to be your most cost-effective and efficient manner of getting yourself in front of a live audience. Right. No doubt.
Right.
And the Learning Lab offers you an opportunity to plug right into that credibility wheel that we've been talking about.
Day one, you walk in, you do your first learning lab, boom, you already are backed with the brand, the social media clout that you need to have a successful event. Isn't that true?
Yeah. Yes.
So that's the learning lab, just a little foundation there. Sorry about that. So let's talk about the costs and the results. Okay. So right now, and you sent me this over earlier, so I'm going to pull this up and we'll put this up on the screen for you here. But right now, in the learning lab, let's talk about pre-COVID and then we'll talk about COVID during the COVID pandemic, because that's really what you guys care about. We don't really care about what it was doing before, but I think it's important to see for reference on whether this is worth it or not. So for $2,000 pre-COVID, if you were with Megastar and you were working in the learning lab program, you would pay $2,000. And at that point, you would have 65 registrations, an average of 42 attendees, roughly 21 buying units, and 14 appointments out of those 21 buying units.
Right.
Okay, that was our average. And advisors would close anywhere from 5 to 6 different pieces of business.
Right.
That's just on the fixed side of things, annuity life insurance sales. During COVID, things haven't changed that much.
Not
What's
really.
changed has been the registration number.
Right.
So Jeff, you told me this morning that registrations were at 30, and you just said it again. So 30. Of that, get this, folks, 24 out of 30 are showing up. So that's again proving that point that this is a much more serious buyer right now. You are the only thing on their calendar. You're the only reason for them to get out of the house. And if you think that, for a while we were kind of concerned, maybe people didn't care about their finances because nothing was working in the beginning, right? Everybody was so sticker shocked by the darn virus that they weren't willing to they were frozen in space. They could not make a decision on anything. But those concerns have not gone away about can I retire, can't I retire? Those concerns have not gone anywhere.
Right.
They're still there.
If anything, they've had to sit at home and think about it.
They've had time to sit there and think about it, and they just can't figure it out. And maybe they called their buddy and they can't get a good answer. Sure, all those things are possible. But now, since things have tempered and the virus isn't clearly going away anytime soon, fair enough. People are starting to say, well, there's things I can do to take my health in my own hands and still feel safe and go to an event. I've been places. I've went to the grocery store. I've gone to a sporting thing in my neighborhood, whatever it might be. I went to a block party. It was fine, blah, blah, blah. They mask up. They check that there's all the precautions have been taken care of. And now they feel fine going outside, right? They feel good. They're willing to go outside. And so now you've got this person that's been starving for answers about their finances that's now willing to come out. That's why they're coming out in droves like this. They register. To be honest, folks, if we could increase the room size, we'd probably have more than 30 as an average.
Right.
The problem is it's 50% capacity, and there's states that only allow 10 folks in a room.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's different everywhere you go. So that's skewing the averages a little bit. But 80% attendance rate, of which advisors have 10 out of the 12 buying units, 10 out of the 12 buying units booking appointments with them, and they're closing 4 to 5 deals.
Right. So really, in the end, nothing
One
really
close has
that
changed.
much.
One close has changed, really, in our stats. And it's a small sample size. That number could go up. It could go down a little bit. But for the last 2 months, 20 events or so.
It's riding pretty good.
20 to, or it's almost 30 events now. It's been solid. And I told everybody that I have an offer for you. If you are interested in even taking a look, or you want to learn more about the Learning Lab, or you want to do anything involved with live events, I urge you to check this out. It's worth 5 minutes of your time to talk with one of the Megastar representatives or Jeff Tallerino himself about these programs, because right now, Megastar, for our advisors, will pay 50% of your marketing costs on every Learning Lab you do from now until the end of the pandemic, until that vaccine is out and people can access it.
Right.
50%. So instead of paying $2,000 for 14 appointments, now you're paying $1,000 for 10 appointments.
It's better than any lead program you can buy.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
By far.
You're talking about 4 closes versus the 5 you were seeing before. So and you're saved now $1,000.
Right.
So let's talk about that, because I know there's some other people out there that are going to say, oh, well, I'm going to start doing workshops again. I'm going to go with my tried and true mail. Let me just tell you something about mail. Mail, you might be absolutely crazy to go back to. Mail was a dying industry, and I'll prove it. At one point, Jeff, and you know this because you were an advisor out in the field for a while before you came to work here, you know that they were getting about a 1% response rate. And there probably was, there are pockets of the country that still get a 1% response rate, but that was the national average. And I argue that those areas that are making 1% response rate now probably had a better response rate back 10 years ago.
Absolutely fallen off.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so now, so if you were that person, you had a 1% response rate. Let's say you did a 5,000 piece mailer, you'd get 50 people registered for your workshop, and then 90% attendance, which is, generous. 90% attendance rate, you had 45 people. So every time you did a 5,000 piece mailer, it cost you $2,500 to do it, about 50 cents per mailer. And you'd have 50 registrations, 45 attendees. Fast forward a decade, you're getting half of that.
Right.
And so if you were doing back then 24 events, 2 events per month, you were paying $60,000 for your marketing. Okay, whether you're paying that through a marketing kitty with your IMO or you're paying it out of pocket, doesn't matter. There's hard costs. Those are real things. Right? Now, what advisors have done, they've done one of two things. They've either doubled because the response rate has fallen off by half. Now you get half a percent response.
Right.
Now you're doing a 10,000 piece mailer, and that means you're still doing the same 24 workshops. Now you're paying $120,000.
Right.
Well, folks, there's a way to reset that. Digital workshops right now, I just told you our averages prior to for $2,000, you'd have 65 registrations, 42. So that's 3 less attendees, and you'd be paying 50 for those same 24 workshops. You'd be paying about $52,000.
Right.
In a year. So you just saved yourself $68,000 by switching to digital. You're hitting the reset button. You're taking your marketing budget back 10 years ago, what it was back then,
Basically,
just by
your
doing
marketing
digital.
pays for itself.
Yeah, and you know what? This whole hubbubaloo about attendance, like even before, it made no sense then. It doesn't make any sense now. Obviously, the attendance rate's gone way up, 80 percentile on digital right now. But before, even at 50%, the registrations were through the roof. You were getting, 100 registrations.
Right.
And 50% fell off. You still ended up with the same 50 attendees.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Who cares how you got there?
Numbers are numbers.
Numbers are numbers.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is how many bodies you got sitting in front of you. So if you want to get involved in the Learning Lab, but you want to find out more about digital-based marketing, you want to find out anything else that's going on at Megastar, I want you to reach out to our team. I got the contact information right here on your screen for you. Jeff Tallarino, thank you so much for joining us and talking a little bit about live events.
Yeah,
I hope everybody out there will take some time to get going. And, hey, we'll see you next time right here on Coffee for Closers. We hope you all have a great rest of the week. Thanks again, Jeff.
All right, man. Thank you.